Hi, everyone. Anybody heard from Keegan today? No.
I thought we were still having the meeting. I haven't heard.
This is the number they gave me.
Yeah, I got the text this morning as a reminder. Just want to make sure.
It says that she'll be on shortly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say because this is what I got too. So, but hi everybody.
Hey guys, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. I have been dealing with a couple of legal issues that y'all don't want to deal with for sure. They're not fun. All right, so let's get started. Stephanie asked me to come on and do a quick class about Keller Mortgage. And so she wasn't really specific on what she wanted me to talk about, but she wanted me to talk to you guys about what Keller Mortgage is and the ways that you can use it if you have a buyer. So the first thing I wanted to do, does anybody have any specific questions that I can make sure that I hit about Keller Mortgage and about using the program itself?
Hi, it's Jamisa. How do you make sure that they actually get the deal with no closing costs and things like that? I know it goes through First Bank, but how do you, just because they're going through First Bank, they automatically Keller Mortgage?
No. So First Bank actually has nothing to do with Keller Mortgage whatsoever. So Keller Mortgage is basically a separate mortgage company itself that is connected to Keller Williams. And you would have to go through the Keller Mortgage link, which I'll show you in just a few minutes on how to do that. And there is closing costs, so that's a myth. So the one thing about Keller Mortgage is they have what they call a 0+ loan. What that means is there are 0 lender fees, 0 origination charges, 0 underwriting fees. You don't have any of the lender fees that you would have with a local bank. And on top of that, anything that's $150,000 or more loan amount gets $1,000 credit back at closing to use towards your closing cost or your down payment, prepaids, anything like that. So that in return makes your closing cost on a, just say $400,000 sale, whereas locally it would normally be around $8,000 to $9,000. Your closing costs are going to be somewhere around $4,000 to $4,200. It's a big savings. So you would have to go through your app. Does everybody have the Keller Williams app downloaded? The Keller Williams Realty app? Okay. So if you open up your app, the way you get to it is you just open the app, and then in the right-hand corner where it says More, you should see Keller Mortgage down at the middle towards the bottom. If you click Keller Mortgage, that is how somebody can actually apply for their loan. So they can hit accept, and then you can say, I want to buy a home or I want to refinance a home. And you can go straight through that app and apply for Keller Mortgage. This is what it looks like right there when you get in it. Okay. So that's why it's really important to share your app with your clients, because they can just go straight to your app and apply for Keller Mortgage. There are a ton of different loan officers. You don't have to use a specific loan officer for Keller Mortgage. I have a favorite that I use personally. And I'll put her information in the box. Her name is Jackie Casabre. And you can use her, or you can just go through the system and they will guarantee that your client will get a phone call. I think it's within 4 hours of putting in their application.
Keegan, will you say one more time? Okay, you said it was 0 origination. Will you say that part one more time for us?
Sure. So you're going to have 0 origination fee, which is normally 1%. Okay. You're going to have 0 processing fees. You're going to have 0 underwriting fees. I'm putting this in the chat box. 0 underwriting fees. 0 origination fees. I can't type today. That's cool. And then you get $1,000 credit at closing for a loan of $150,000 or more. Now that's the kicker. That's not $150,000 loan, like purchase price. That is $150,000 loan amount. Keller Mortgage can do anything as far as loan type, conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA. However, listen to me when I tell you, from experience, do not use them unless the house is going to be over that $150,000 loan amount. If it's not at least $150,000 loan amount, there is usually a program here that would work better for your client locally than to go through them. Does that make sense? But what you see a huge savings on is the higher price homes, especially the ones that are conventional. Your closing costs will be half of what someone else's closing costs would be locally. I have clients that usually save anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 when they go through Keller Mortgage for their closing cost. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen. Oh, since I'm not logged in as the host, they disabled it. Well, that's just fun. Okay, hang on. They told me I didn't have to log in as the host today. So if you go to the Keller Mortgage portal, it's just going to be portal. Let me type this in the box for you. You can go to portal.kellermortgage. Come on. It might. Okay. Keller Mortgage, portal.kellermortgage.com. If you type that in, you can log in with your command. How you log in command, you'll need your ID and password that you log in with command. And if you log in, you'll have a portal that you can go into. You can hit refer a client and you can send that application to them. You can see what deals you have working. You can see your reports. There's a bunch of marketing materials that I encourage each of you to look into. They've got a lot of great marketing materials in there. They have sign writers. They have flyers that you can use if you are working with a buyer. You can give them a flyer. You can choose a loan officer, or you can leave that blank. So it does not matter which way you go there. It's a really cool portal. You can go to settings and make sure all of your settings are set up correctly. Your picture is in there, all of that stuff. And you can copy your personal Keller Mortgage link, and you can copy it on your phone, and you can either text it to someone, You can email it to someone. You can share it any way that you want to. I will tell you the best way to get it tracked is to actually share your app and get your client to go through the app to do the process. But there's a lot of times that I'll have a client that, you know, we already found a house. They just want to check if Keller Mortgage is going to be worth it. And in that situation, I just simply copy and paste the link to them and let them go on and do it. Now, I will tell you, it is all online, okay? You do not see a loan officer in person. So if you have someone that is not tech savvy or does not want to handle their stuff online through their portal, it might not be the best option for them. It could be, but it might not be the best option for them at that time. So everybody check out the portal of how you get there, how you can set it up. You can set up a loan officer. You can set up your team. You can set up your signature on emails that go out to them. But look up the marketing materials, especially if you are doing open houses or you're doing a lot of open houses right now. Look up the marketing materials. They're amazing, and you can definitely use them for your advantage. You can also use them to do some Facebook advertising. If you're wanting to do some Facebook advertising to get some buyers, you can actually use the marketing materials to do that as well. Does anybody have any questions on any of that or anything Keller Mortgage specific?
Hi, it's Lisa again. You said they will never talk to anybody in person. So how does it work at the closing, or they do email? They have questions throughout. How does that work?
Yeah, so they'll call, they'll text, they'll email, that kind of thing. It's just the loan officers are not local, so they will not be at closing. But there's a lot of loan officers that don't go to closings anymore, especially since COVID has happened. So they'll be available to talk to them on the phone. They just won't meet a loan officer face to face.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Hey, Keegan, this is Shannon. What about agents? Can agents use Keller Mortgage as well?
Absolutely. Yes, that's a really good question. I have been through Keller Mortgage. So I started using Keller Mortgage in February of 19 or 18, when it rolled out. And I have used them for everything from a refinance personally to a purchase personally, and everything in between. I have done countless of transactions with them. And my only advice to you guys is, unless it's over $150,000 loan amount, if it's under that, don't use them. They're not the best option. There is a better option here. But if you have something over $150,000, especially if it's a conventional loan, call them, give them a shot if your buyer is open to it. Now we do have to have the Keller Mortgage addendum or agreement signed whenever we're working with a buyer. So the best way to explain that to them is just like the capital title agreement, is just say, hey, you came to me pre-approved with Loan Depot, and I'm not trying to get you to switch loan officers. If you have a great loan officer, I'm sure you do. However, I want you to know that we do have a program with Keller Mortgage, whom is affiliated with Keller Williams Realty, that you are able to look into. And these are the great things about it: zero processing, zero underwriting, zero origination, $1,000 credit at closing as long as it's over $150,000 loan. If you want to look into it, great. I can give you a contact. If not, I just need you to sign this addendum saying that I offered it to you and that you understand we have an affiliation with them. That is it. Leave it at that. Make sense? Okay.
Okay, so if
Hey,
so
Jake.
hey, if it's under $150,000, say it's you recommend trying to go with a local one. Even what does it? It usually ends up being cheaper for them, even though Keller Mortgage has no processing, underwriting, or origination fees.
So if it's under the 150,000, they don't get that $1,000 credit back at
Right.
closing, and it usually does not end up being that big of a difference because if it's also under 150, they can't guarantee the zero origination. There could be some origination on there. Now they'll never have underwriting or processing fees, but they very well could end up having some origination charges. And another thing that I've noticed, you can always get them to run it and see what their estimate is. Just in my experience, it's not worked out if the client is doing under $150,000 loan, it has not been the best option for them. So you can always try it out, see what they say. But I haven't had good luck with it. Another thing I haven't had good luck with is if someone is getting, well, same thing. If someone has a ton of cash, like if they're buying, you know, a $300,000 house, but they're putting $200,000 down, so the loan amount's only $100,000. I didn't have good luck with that either, because it was under that $150,000 mark.
Right. All right. That's
just my experience.
Right. Well, that's very helpful for me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you know, reach out to your clients that you've sold in the past, or people that you know that might be interested in doing a refinance. They do refinances. However, everybody needs to be aware that refinances right now are taking about 90 to 120 days. Okay, and that's a mortgage-wide timeline right there. Purchases are still able to close, especially with Keller Mortgage, within the 30-day mark, 30 to 40-day mark. But refinances are a different beast. They're taking 90 to 120 days. So what that means is if you have someone that is refinancing, they are not allowed to go buy a new car. It is like buying a home, okay? They are not allowed to go buy and put on credit card their washer and dryer that they need, furniture, that kind of stuff. It's just like buying a house. They do not need to go buy and open any new credit if they're going to go through the refinance process. So that's something to think about if you're going to start pushing refinances, is to think about that it could take 90 to 120 days. I mean, that's 3 to 4 months that you'll have to not go buy anything. So just be aware of that. Also, one other thing to note with Keller Mortgage is once all your documents are submitted to them, they do manual underwriting right away within the first 24 hours of all your documents being received. And once manual underwriting is done, appraisal is ordered day one. So once all of your documents have been uploaded, and when I say documents, you know, I'm talking about your tax returns, your pay stubs, your bank statements, that kind of stuff, everything you would need to buy a house. Once that is uploaded, your appraisal is ordered day one, and they do not pay for that up front. Also, if it does not go through, if the sale does not go through, the client does not pay for the appraisal. That's a pretty big deal because a lot of times if you do have a sale fail, the client is still on the hook for that $450 to $500 of appraisal fees. So that's one cool thing about Keller Mortgage is it's ordered day one. Most of the time it is done before the home inspection is done. The appraisal is. So that's another really good thing. If you're writing an offer and there's multiple offers and you want to go ahead and get that contingency out of the way, that's a good idea to get the contingency out of the way, is to get that appraisal ordered day one. So, any questions about that?
You said the appraisal isn't paid for immediately. So would that mean it goes into the end, or the client have to pay up front? What that mean?
Nope, it does not. It's not paid up front. So the appraisal is going to be into the closing cost at the very end. So they do not pay for the appraisal until closing, when they have closing costs. Yep. And you get that $1,000 credit, back at closing to go towards those closing costs.
I also heard a while back that there was also a $3,000 or $3,500 went towards closing costs too, that Keller Williams paid. What happened to that, or am I confused?
Yeah, that's never been. That's not ever been anything.
Oh.
It's been the same program since they opened it. So I'm not sure where that came from. But Keller Williams, just realize Keller Williams doesn't pay for the $1,000. Keller Mortgage gives a credit to the buyer at closing for the $1,000. So just make sure that you're keeping the two completely separate, because they are separate companies. So just make sure you talk about Keller Williams as the realty company, and then Keller Mortgage is actually a separate mortgage company. Believe it or not, it's owned by Keller Williams, but until recently, when Gary joined everything together, it was not run by Keller Williams. So now it is actually one company, which makes us a little bit more. We need to make sure we get all those agreements signed for the Keller Mortgage disclosures for sure, to know that it's not us, it's the mortgage side of the company. Okay.
Okay, and Keegan, again, you said that if the deal doesn't go through, then they don't pay for the appraisal. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, they don't pay for the appraisal. If say your appraisal was done and you got to home inspection and the whole deal blew up on you, you do not pay for that that appraisal that was done before that home inspection.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any other questions as far as Keller Mortgage? I have been through every scenario. I've been VA, conventional, FHA. I've done them all.
I have a question that's just kind of I don't know. It's not necessarily just about Keller Mortgage, but about mortgages that I've noticed. Sometimes you see on listings on the MLS that it says possible 100% financing, which I know you can get 100% financing with VA anyway. But have you been through that scenario with FHA or conventional loans?
So there's a FHA, there's an Alabama housing conventional loan through FHA.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have to be a first-time home buyer to qualify. But basically what happens is it's a second mortgage on your house. Okay, so it's a conventional loan of 97%. And then the additional 3% through Alabama housing, if they qualify, that is going to go on to their mortgage as a second mortgage that they pay off over time. Okay. And that could be 100%. There's also a couple of banks that do local 100% financing, like USDA is 100% financing, rural development. It's 100% financing. Anybody will do that as well. But there's also like Bancorp South has a really good first time home buyer program that could be that is 100%. You just have to make sure that they qualify debt to income ratio wise, as well as, you know, money wise, that they'll
Right.
be under the limit.
Right.
But there's a lot of different options for 100%.
Okay. Awesome. I'll definitely look more into that. So you said Alabama Housing Authority?
Alabama Housing. It's
Okay.
the FHA. It's basically an FHA, Alabama Housing. There's an FHA step up program. I don't know that we're using that as often now as we were back in like 2009. But any local lender would be able to get that information for you.
Okay. Awesome. So like Haley Underwood, she could get all that information.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Haley and I think Haley actually, First Bank has their own program as well that's local. That Haley can tell you about too if the funds are there. They have funds that are released every year for their 100% program as well.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, speaking of that, Haiti and First Bank, is First Bank part of, let's say, an agreement with Keller Williams, or is this just something that y'all recommend one of the people that y'all like to use?
So First Bank has had an office in our office, you know, for the last, I don't know however many years, but they're not affiliated. Like we would not, Keller Williams does not get anything off of First Bank if you were to use them. So we've just had a good affiliate relationship with them being in our office for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years. So it's, Keller Williams actually doesn't have anything to do with their loan programs or anything like that. It's just a affiliation business agreement that we've just had good business relationship with them. And that's not, and I will tell you guys, like being in the business 11 years, my list is ever changing of loan officers. And I know that sounds bad, but just because one person might have a really good program right now doesn't mean that they're going to get rid of that program and somebody else pick up another program that might be better. So I would encourage all of you to always be on the lookout for that relationship with someone locally, to have at least 1 or 2 local lenders that you are really confident in and that you feel like have really good programs for your clients. I would recommend doing that. So I love Keller Mortgage, and I will say I push Keller Mortgage anytime I have a buyer that I feel like would benefit from it. But that doesn't mean that I don't use local as well. You need to have that local relationship that you can actually, you know, go to. Okay. Anybody else?
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
If Breland is the seller and I'm representing the buyer and they use Keller Mortgage.
Yep.
Okay. So I can push that.
You can. Breland will probably try to push their local lenders on you. D.R. Horton has DHI Mortgage.
Right.
Builders will probably push a local loan officer on you. However, this is my advice to that. You can go ahead and get them pre-approved with a local loan officer, but have them check Keller Mortgage, because I have had 3 situations now where they have pushed my buyer to go through their local lender because they'll pay closing cost. And when it came down to it, Keller Mortgage if they were to pay their own closing cost, it was cheaper for them to go through Keller Mortgage than it was to go through that local lender that was getting closing costs paid through the builder, because the closing costs were that much higher. So it's always a good idea to double check. Now, if you do elect to go through Keller Mortgage, they would not pay your closing cost. So just be aware of that. Anything else? All right, well, everybody go to the portal.kellermortgage.com. If y'all have questions, I'm going to put my contact information here in the chat box. You can save my number. You are more than welcome to text me, call me, email me anytime you have a question about any of this. I'd be more than happy to set you up with a loan officer. My loan officer that I use a lot is Jackie Casabre. Actually, I use a different person, but I'm not giving you his number because he is a manager, and so he doesn't work loans now. And so I've just been begging him to work loans for me. And so finally he has said, hey, don't send anybody else, send them to Jackie, because Jackie's on his team. So I'm going to put her contact info right here. And her name is Jacqueline, but I call her Jackie. So, and that's what she goes by. So, oh, shoot. Hang on. Let me retype. 6. And y'all, you can, as soon as you find a Keller Mortgage loan officer, you can text them. I have had the greatest experience with the mortgage officer. I mean, they're just so knowledgeable, and I've never had one. I'm gonna knock on this wood that's not real wood in the office, but I'm gonna knock here and say that I've not had one that has been delayed closing yet. I probably just jinxed myself, but that's about the way it goes. So Jackie Casabre, her number is, and her email address is in the chat box right there. And I encourage you to reach out to her. And if you have any questions, but my information is there too. So if you need anything at all, just let me know. Everybody good? All right, cool.
Thank
Well,
you.
if y'all have any questions,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. And I know it was short. She just wanted me to hop on and give y'all a few little things about Keller Mortgage. But if y'all go digging and y'all end up having questions about anything, you just text me, call me, email me, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Well, I will hop off of here, and if you need anything, as always, y'all just let me know. All right, y'all have a good day.